think wins in a fight, you or Prime Floyd?
Me.
No questions?
Why would you think that I would say Floyd?
Not another guy in the world that can beat you right now. That's Mayweather level. Head to head at their welterweight primes, Bud versus Floyd. I feel like a lot of us might actually be picking Bud right now. But what he achieved, I cannot put him above Mayweather or Pacquiao because he got these opportunities so late.
This is the problem with Bud's career, right? It bloomed kind of late.
Bud's been the baddest man for 12 years, but no one gave him credit because he didn't go tell you he was the baddest man. He didn't market that. He just went out and fought and beat people and knocked people out. So he had to move up and take the bigger fight.
Terence Crawford fired back at Floyd Mayweather's claim, stating with confidence that he would have beaten Floyd even in his prime. He emphasized that history will remember him as a fighter who never ducked anyone, always stepping up to every challenge. Crawford made it clear that if a clash with Mayweather had ever been possible, he wouldn't have shied away from it either.
And he started going like this, and then that's when Floyd started taking over.
What do you want your legacy to be like when your career is all said and done? What do you want people to remember you for?
Oh man, everybody's asking me the question. I always be like, man, it's whatever it's their opinion. Everybody gonna have a different opinion of Terence Crawford, but one thing they can't say is that I ducked anyone. I fought everyone that was available to fight.
Dan Rafael argued that Terence Crawford has already reached a stage in his career where fighting again isn't even necessary to cement his legacy. He pointed out that Crawford has cleaned out divisions, unified titles, and dominated elite opponents without ever showing a real weakness. According to Rafael, when a fighter reaches this level, it's no longer about proving himself. It's about protecting his legacy and enjoying the recognition he's earned. In his view, Crawford's resume has already exceeded all expectations, and chasing more fights won't change his place in history. His recent dominance alone is enough to ensure he'll be remembered as one of the greats.
What does a Terence Crawford do now? Like, what's the next thing that he does? Because you look around and go, is the only way that he really gets that ultimate chance if he goes up again? And do you say, what do you do?
I don't quite. Yeah, I mean, he was asked those questions at the press conference. He made two things clear. One, he's not going back to 154, and I say that because some people suggested about possibly pursuing a fight with Ennis, who has his debut in the weight class coming up.
Yeah.
That's probably unlikely. He's not going to go back down in weight. And I mean, no disrespect to Ennis, but Ennis is a guy that's known within the diehards of boxing. He's not in any way known beyond the boundaries of the hardcore boxing fan. So yeah. I don't know if that makes sense for a lot of different reasons for him. Not to say I wouldn't, as a boxing fan, enjoy watching the fight. So, yeah. But I don't think he's going back to 154. He was asked about like a Benavides at 175, and he acknowledged like that guy is really big. I mean, that's maybe a bridge too far. He already went up to 2 weight classes to fight Canelo at 68. So it feels to me like he can either stay at 168 and defend this championship and look to the same types of names that were being thrown around as the types of guys that would have been in the mix for Canelo had he won the fight. And he's gonna have mandatories. Obviously, that's the first thing they'll have to look at. I mean, I don't know if he's not gonna necessarily keep the belts if he's forced into a mandatory. He doesn't need the belts at this point, but there might be something appealing to him. For example, and Billy had a great fight on the undercard, although he's been ordered to fight a rematch in that fight. Mm-hmm. That was like fight of the year against Lester Martinez, candidate for fight of the year.
The emphatic way Terence Crawford dismantled Canelo Alvarez has sparked a heated debate in boxing circles. Fans and analysts immediately began comparing his victory to Floyd Mayweather's win over Canelo. The key difference: Mayweather beat a younger, less experienced version of the Mexican star, while Crawford dominated a far more seasoned Canelo. That has many wondering if Crawford should now be viewed as superior. But as Luke Thomas reminded fans, Crawford's career blossomed much later than Floyd's. Mayweather was already a global superstar in his 20s, fighting elite opposition early on, while Crawford's rise was delayed by lack of promotion and recognition. Because of that, his prime moments are arriving later. Thomas argues that while Crawford's performance may have been more impressive in execution, it doesn't automatically place him above Mayweather historically, because timing and career trajectory still matter.
This was a masterclass. One guy with outrageous skill offensively and defensively, simply making another very good fighter look lesser than. This was the other part. The people who watch MMA and then try to watch boxing through an MMA lens, I don't know what to tell you. You're actually missing the point. The kind of specific details and the depth of the technical ability far surpasses even what you can get at the highest level of MMA, because they don't have that level of skill. There is no equivalent in MMA to Bud Crawford, because there cannot be. Bud is the most talented boxer I've seen since Mayweather.
I think Crawford is way better than Floyd Mayweather.
To be fair to Floyd, he obviously had hand problems in his whole welterweight run, and it's why he took that long stretch off in the 2007, 2008, 2009 area, and Floyd's brilliance to be able to be just as great in some ways at that age. We're not here trying to dunk on Floyd. When you get a victory like this, right now, straight up, Luke, you could say that there's not a welterweight, junior middleweight, or maybe even super middleweight. When you could say over like a 4-division stretch, Bud, cut down to any of these weights, that there's not another guy in the world that can beat you right now, that's Mayweather level. Head to head at their welterweight primes, Bud versus Floyd, I feel like a lot of us might actually be picking Bud right now. But what he achieved, I cannot put him above Mayweather or Pacquiao, because he got these opportunities so late.
This is the problem with Bud's career, right? It bloomed kind of late. I find Bud to be as defensively sound as I've ever seen a fighter. He can find you. There's nowhere to hide with him.
Like Floyd, he has such control over the terms in there. It's just insane.
Buddy McGirt was one of the loudest voices backing Crawford after the Canelo fight, calling it a performance of pure domination. He explained that from the opening bell, Crawford controlled every aspect of the fight, never allowing Canelo to dictate the pace or impose his trademark aggression. For McGirt, the gap in skill was so clear that a rematch isn't even necessary. Everyone watching saw the difference. More importantly, he argued that Crawford has finally secured the legacy he's been chasing for years. By decisively beating a fighter of Canelo's stature, Crawford now owns the signature win that validates his greatness in the eyes of both fans and historians. In McGirt's view, there's nothing left for Crawford to prove. His destruction of Canelo isn't just another victory. It's the defining chapter that cements his place among boxing legends.
Yes.
Like, what fight were they watching?
Right.
I mean, it's. I don't know, man. I don't know what some of these guys be doing in this game, man. Some people, in situations like that, they should ask them, listen, just turn in your license, bro. Because there's no way in hell the fight was that close.
Right.
I mean, come on, man. It's just, it's not fair. It's not fair. You get a guy like Terence got here and dominate from beginning to end, and then you find out he needed the last 2 rounds to win. That's scary, man.
It is, and you see how you just mentioned scary. Now, a lot of people are saying, buddy, that type of beating, he's not going to want a rematch. But looking at those gold cards and knowing that, hey, you wasn't too far behind, even though, he did mention that, he's better than Mayweather. But, I mean, what's your thoughts? Do you feel like that was such a beating that Canelo wouldn't want a rematch?
No, I think that, in all honesty, personally, I think that Canelo's at that stage in his career right now, that it's a rematch he don't need. He don't need it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? What we saw that night, that's the stage Canelo's at right now. I mean, he's fought everybody, he's did everything. You know what I mean? He passed the torch to the right guy. You know what I mean? He passed the torch to the right guy. You know what I mean? He lost it to Terence fair and square, and he passed the torch. So if you're gonna have another fight, cool, but you don't need to. You have nothing. He has nothing to prove. He fought Terence and nobody else would.
When analysts compare Terence Crawford to Floyd Mayweather, they often point to Floyd's mental edge as the deciding factor that kept him one step ahead of everyone. While Crawford is praised for his technical brilliance, his ability to switch stances, adjust mid-fight, and break down opponents with surgical precision, critics argue that Mayweather had something more. Floyd mastered psychological warfare. He didn't just outbox his rivals physically. He manipulated their minds, drawing them into mistakes and breaking their game plans before they even realized it. That layer of mental dominance, both before and during a fight, is seen as what truly separated him. Crawford's skill set is undeniable, and his versatility places him in the same conversation. But the aura of control that Floyd carried into every matchup, the feeling that opponents were already beaten mentally remains a unique trait that still gives him the edge in historical debates.
Hagler, Hearns. I've seen Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler. Like I've seen all of those things, and those fights were wars. Floyd Mayweather is the best boxer I've ever seen. He's the most skilled boxer I've ever seen. Bud, and this is just my opinion, is the baddest man I've seen wear boxing gloves. And here's why I say that. Here's why I say that. Bud is extremely skilled, right? Yet not as skilled as Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather made people look foolish, right? And so if I had to say who's the greatest I've seen, and Bud said it right, the best of an era and the best of an era, it's Floyd. But when I watched Bud against Canelo, there was this extreme skill on display, and there was a level of crazy that's different. There was a level of, and Floyd's extremely tough. Go back to Shane Mosley and the 2 punches he landed early in the fight and the way that he embarrassed him. I'm not saying that Floyd's not tough, Floyd's not a bad man, but there was domination inside that ring we saw this weekend. And there's no fear in him in the way that he's attacked, gaining notoriety. Bud's been the baddest man for 12 years, but no one gave him credit because he didn't go tell you he was the baddest man. He didn't market that. He just went out and fought and beat people and knocked people out. So he had to move up and take the bigger fights and the better fights, and he was Errol Spence.
For more than a decade, Terence Crawford has been displaying elite skills, yet his reserved personality and lack of showmanship often kept him out of the mainstream spotlight. Unlike fighters who thrive on trash talk and theatrics, Crawford chose to let his work inside the ring define him. This earned him the respect of hardcore boxing fans, but it also meant his profile grew slower than others. Only now, after headline victories over Errol Spence Jr. and Canelo Alvarez, is the wider public beginning to recognize his greatness. Still, some critics argue the praise is arriving late. At this stage of his career, Crawford is closer to the finish line than the starting point. While he may still add to his accomplishments, the shrinking window raises the question: how different would his legacy look today if he had been given the same spotlight much earlier in his journey?
That's how great he was. Canelo cemented him on what is the two-headed monster that marks the greatest of the 2000s. Floyd Mayweather is on that, and Bud Crawford is right next to him. I don't think we have to pick on who's better. I think they both dominated their eras equally.
Floyd Mayweather has often faced criticism for rarely acknowledging other legends, even resisting the idea that Muhammad Ali, widely hailed as the greatest of all time, should be ranked above him. Now, with Terence Crawford achieving milestones that place him in similar conversations, questions about Floyd's ego have resurfaced. Crawford's emphatic win over Canelo has sparked debates that edge him closer to Mayweather's historical pedestal. For someone as fiercely protective of his legacy as Floyd, this shift is hard to accept. Critics argue that Mayweather thrives on being the singular benchmark of boxing greatness, and when another fighter begins to share that spotlight, it strikes at his pride. This perception of jealousy paints Floyd as someone unwilling to let anyone else stand beside him in boxing history, which adds fuel to the tension surrounding his public reactions to Crawford's rise.
Puts him on par with Floyd Mayweather Jr., and you know Floyd Mayweather Jr. doesn't like that. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is one of the biggest egos in the sport, so much so that he could not find a way to give Muhammad Ali credit as being a top 5 fighter and claimed that Roberto Duran sits above Muhammad Ali, right? Why? Because Floyd wants to be better than Muhammad Ali. He completely redid his image when he became Money Mayweather to pretty much copy from calling himself the GOAT, calling himself TBE, right? Whole thing. very disrespectful of Muhammad Ali when he was coming up, when after Floyd Mayweather Jr. wound up being at the top of the sport. So now that Terence Crawford has firmly placed himself at the top of boxing, and not just as the pound for pound fighter right now, many people are saying, hey, shouldn't he be considered one of the greatest fighters of all time? Isn't this a realistic conversation we can have? So what does that do? That butts Terence Crawford right up against Floyd Mayweather. So when Floyd was asked a series of questions, right? Because Floyd has a fight coming up. I do believe it maybe in January. I think it may be in January or early 2026, I believe is the time frame, where Floyd Mayweather Jr. is going to be fighting Mike Tyson in I believe this is going to be an exhibition.
Post to him when you want to, not when he wants you to. And you know what I mean? That's how it was.
I know, I'm sorry. I know this is bad production, but we don't need you to turn that phone to the side. I know, I'm thinking about Happy right now. I'm like, he know better. That's better. That's better. Go ahead, Ant. Go ahead.
Hey, but you know how, man. Me and Sean, we know you personally. I had people telling me, nah, man, this is just a money grab. He just went up there for the money. I said, man, if you know this dude, but you mentally, bro, I put you in the same category as Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. I'm like, he wants to be great. Y'all want the money, but I want to be great. Where that come from, man?
It's just me, you know what I mean? Like, I think all the greats is just born with that competitiveness, you know? And like I said, you know, a lot of people, they didn't want me to accomplish the feat over Canelo. It wasn't that it wasn't possible. They didn't want me to be the one to do it because I was the one that they was blackballing for years. I was the one that they said, you know, wasn't gonna make it to this table. I was the one that they said couldn't sell. I was the one that they said, you know, made bad business decisions. So of course they don't want me to be the one to make it to the top and then conquer